Hello, hello, and welcome to a double edition of the Cheap Seats, or the FPL edition of the Cheap Seats this week, as we discuss the second game week that's going to happen in this week on the back end of Game Week 22, about to end with Spurs and Chelsea playing each other. That's why we have Cyrus and Dean next to each other, so they can side-eye each other very nicely there. And also got Wahid back. But before we get going and get to find out how people are doing, please remember to subscribe and interact with us on these platforms, subscribe on the YouTube channel, and also follow us on Twitter as well. All our Twitter handles are there at the bottom. Firstly, let's ask Wahid, how are you doing? Welcome back from Zanzibar. Looks like you have a tan, or that might just be a little bit of a lighting situation there.
I think it's a bit of both.
If you went to Zanzibar, it is most definitely a tan, but the lighting doesn't help. You almost look like that guy who's hiding in one of those, secret videos. His identity has been kept away from us for security purposes.
And then, so how is your have you managed to keep up with your fantasy team throughout honeymoon, or did you have to set the team up for the time that you were away?
So I'm not going to lie to you. I clean forgot about my fantasy side. But I'd set Suter as my captain before I left. And
that's not bad. Yeah.
And forgetting to change my team pay dividends, like I clean forgot about it. And then at some point I saw also Twitter is banned in Tanzania, so I couldn't log on to Twitter to check on scores. So at some point I logged on to Football 365. I was like, oh, Suchek scored a couple, and then I was like, oh wait, he's my captain. So I logged onto FPL. I was like, oh wait, that's a big win.
The problem, Wahid, is that it now says you're better when you're not playing than when you're actively playing.
Aren't we all?
Yeah,
exactly. Wahid, are you going to formally apologize to David Moyes?
It will happen the same time he apologizes to Paul Pogba.
Okay, Cyrus, how are you doing? How's your fantasy team doing? I've heard that you've given up since they fired Lampard. It's just over now.
Look, the love of football has definitely dimmed. I've definitely started listening to a lot more Elton John, Candles in the Wind, and it's been a tough time. And I think, if anything, fantasy football has also reconfirmed for me just how much I hate it. It's a long-term relationship you just can't step away from, because you take your eye off the ball, you don't play. Sometimes you do better than when you do actually play. And then when you do make calls like I did this week and triple captain Salah, they play an absolute stinker. So I don't know anymore. I can't give advice. But if anything, perhaps it should be opposite day with Cyrus's team. Whenever I make a pick, go the other way.
Oh yeah, thank you very much for the Sterling pick. It's seemingly helping me in this game week somehow. It hurt me over the weekend with Pep rotation, but I held on. And now seemingly Pep plays. This is what Pep does. The most fascinating thing ever. He plays an 11 entirely. For the past 2 games, he has not made a sub. It's ridiculous. But it's what it is. Dean, how's your game week going?
Game week's actually going really well. I said earlier, Captain Madison paid off. Got 2 assists and some bonus points. So happy with that. And also, the moment I take all the Spurs players out of my team, start doing better in fantasy. So there's moral of the story. Don't back your own boys. Back other people's players, because yours are crap.
I agree with that.
Well,
that's my lesson now.
Oh, I learned that the hard way. Leno got me -1. Luckily, I didn't have Louise. But I'm hoping that Son comes through tonight. I'm sorry, Cyrus. I really need him to at least play 60 minutes and do something.
He can play.
He
can play.
You think they're going to send Leno back to school just to learn the rules of football? Or do you think
that was just ridiculous? Yeah, oh my word, dude.
I'm pretty sure the under-9 B side at Boxburg Primary knows that you can't touch the ball outside the box if you're a goalkeeper.
Wow, Boxburg Primary has got some serious alums. So,
yes, I'm one of them. I came from there. I just never was a goalkeeper.
There you go.
So, AB, how's your game week going? And I saw Bruno did some things. I heard people when Manchester United was 7-0 up, they were like, okay, so what's Bruno doing now? Can he get some points?
Guys, I was in and out of that game. I was so tired I don't know what reason. I fell asleep at 4-1. Well, yeah, when they were offside, but they weren't offside, but they were offside, and then that was it. So I missed Dan James scoring. Yeah, my game week's going okay. It's not really. Dino's ahead because he's got Suchek, so yeah, I
Why
need to
don't you have
differentiate myself.
Suchek?
Because I have other midfielders. I've got Son, Salah, Bruno, your boy ESR, and then Gundogan. There's no room for Suchek in this team.
My
Okay.
midfield is as star-studded as that, and
Exactly.
yeah, when you back those guys, you're just like, well, why am I even playing this game?
Okay, Wahid, yes?
As it Suchek is the highest points per million player on the game. His points cost, yeah. If you divide the points by the cost, he's the highest.
Is that a
Don't
metric
come
that you
here
guys
with the
use?
logic.
I do look.
Wait,
What's his ratio there, Wahid?
I worked it out earlier. I just worked it out that it's like super high. So he's
The classic didn't
5.1.
press Control S on that Excel spreadsheet.
Yeah.
Forgot to save that one. Oh, no.
5.3.
Wow, so that's about 20.
19 point some change.
Peace. Wow.
Is that how you guys use to differentiate players as well?
Yeah, I do.
Just asking for a friend.
Only EY people do that.
Do you guys have like a spreadsheet of all, I don't know, 750 players in the EPL, and you guys are slotting them in?
I have a few that I keep an eye on as long-term picks, because that metric is more a long-term metric than a short-term metric. So
how are you not leading this league?
Where are you on our log? If you're doing all this work and you second
at the end of it all, it doesn't matter. That's the problem. We can come up with X and Y and look at the tangents and all of this crap. At the end of the day, Pep will not pick any of your players. And
when you talk to us now on the show, you're like Gary Neville in the Sky Sports box. But when you play fantasy, you're like Gary Neville at Valencia.
It just makes no sense.
I don't understand.
Okay, guys. Okay.
I'm only like 60 points behind Dean.
Where's
That's a lot of
Dean?
points, bro. I'm third on the log, I think. So how you gone, B?
Dean's fourth and I'm 11th.
Oh, I'm 12. So, okay, cool. I'm hanging around.
And Paul and Wahid are on the same amount of points, actually. Fun fact.
Yes, go Son. Come on, Son.
Yeah.
Okay, but I'm still
But as you scroll down.
Okay, guys, we need to get to the show. Let's talk about differentials. I had an issue over the week before the last game week, and I think it's still carrying to this game because I didn't make a decision. I had been taking my team. He's about 5.6, but I have 6.1 available if I take him out to find a striker. And so I was looking for strikers to add into my team. And so that's the whole discussion we're having today in terms of differentials. But we're not going to talk about strikers. We're going to talk across the league. And you guys have different players that you'd like to talk about. My first one, my differential, I was thinking, because West Brom are like in a bit of a hole right now, and it looks like them, Fulham and Sheffield, are not making it out. I was looking at either Callum Robinson or Diagne, who's the new signing that they got in January. I saw he assisted over the weekend, Diagne, and he also assisted again this weekend. And I was like, okay, maybe that's a guy I could put in. But then a lot of people on Twitter came with Bobby de Cordova-Reid as one from Fulham, and I kind of felt like, am I taking a Fulham pick? Come on, But those are the guys that I was thinking about. Then there was an interesting one that I saw, Jalen Bogle. He's a defender at Sheffield. He's been playing for the past 7 games, yes, and he has scored. Sheffield, yes, you're going to get hit with the clean sheet situation, but he's playing a little bit more up front for somebody to look at. But those are the guys I was thinking about. Dean, I'll start with you before we go. We'll go Dean, AB, Wahid, and then Cyrus to round it off. Dean,
you go down the table,
Cyrus is just
we'll
going to
ask
steal
you-
all of ours. He's just going to say, yo, what AB said, what Dean said.
No, Cyrus, I've got a
I've got a
special one,
list.
'cause none of-
I've got a
Yeah,
list.
I know you have a list. I know you have
He
a list.
calculated
So,
points per price, Excel spreadsheet like always.
Going
okay,
down.
Dean, what's the
Okay,
one
yeah.
differential that you are thinking guys should start considering that you are looking at in your sums? Seemingly everyone's got an Excel spreadsheet except for me and Cyrus.
So I've got two. Well, it's not really a striker, although everyone knows that the strikers are where we're lacking in this time. But Kane's coming back next week, so don't worry. But in terms of midfielders, Callum Hudson-Odoi is mine. He's owned by 0.8% of people in FPL. And it looks like Tuchel likes him. I mean, he hasn't played 90. He didn't play a lot of minutes under Lampard, so whatever was going there, but Lampard didn't know what he was doing. So he played 90 against Wolves, and he played just over 70 against Burnley. But against Burnley, he got the assist. So I think he's looking really good. If you look at him playing on that flank, he's playing really well. So I think if Tuchel continues to pick him, he'll just get that confidence. Everyone knows he's a world-class player. Always.
But that's the real question, because there's so many players to pick from. There's Pulisic, there's him, there's Ziyech.
But that's exactly, yeah.
There's
So there's plenty.
So you're going to be gambling by picking him because he's not guaranteed minutes. And at the moment, Tuchel is still looking at his squad. He's still trying to determine what's going on there.
But Callum's been
But he's played 2 games. Yeah, he's been the only guy that's played Wolves, and he played Burnley. So 100% it's a gamble. But that's exactly what a differential is. It's a gamble.
Yeah, it's a pattern.
So
Cyrus, do you
you have
agree
to have a look.
with Callum Hudson-Odoi?
I do also agree with Wahid's point, and this is also where I like Dean talked about taking his guys out of his team and then not necessarily letting the patriotism rule the heart here. The reality is that with Thomas Tuchel, because he's so new, he's still trying to find. I mean, who would have expected Alonso to play? Let alone score, right? And I mean, so it's one of those where you just don't know, but it's a clean slate kind of thing. It's just that he definitely rates Callum Hudson-Odoi. He does see him more as almost how Victor Moses played the right wing back, and that's how he's played the last few games. But there is an actual wing back in Reece James available who defends quite well. So what Tuchel might do is try and find a space for Callum. But having said that, there's a lot of other people who will still need to be crowbarred into the team. So that's a tough one, because I do agree that Callum's a great pick, but you just don't know if he's going to play.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on to AB. We'll come back to Dean for a second one. AB, what's your differential pick that you've chosen?
Cool. So I've got one surefire pick. A pick who I think we should all be looking at. He's a guaranteed starter, and he's really coming into his own under the current regime, and that's Luke Shaw. I think I texted the WhatsApp group, literally texted the WhatsApp group.
This is the same Wahid that said that all he does is go to McDonald's.
Yeah,
A few
exactly.
weeks ago, same Wahid.
Marriage has changed you. So, I mean...
For the better, it would seem.
Yeah. He's forgiving people.
Who's like the signing of the season, because he's changed my Luke Shaw McDonald's munching like fatty into prime Patrice Evra.
Not even Patrice Evra was this good.
Wow. Okay. So Luke Shaw, why? I obviously saw him in the 9-0, but can it continue?
Yeah. So I mean, I think Shaw struggled under Ollie when he was played in the 3 at the back as a left-footed centre back. I think Ollie has now gotten over that and is starting to feel a bit more confident with having him as the out-and-out attacking fullback. I've pulled up some stats, and in Luke Shaw's best ever season at United, which was the 18-19 season where Mourinho got fired, Pogba was the top scorer, it was a whole, Ollie was at the wheel, it was a really screwed up season. Shaw crossed about 2 times a game, whereas now he's crossing about 6 times a game, which is just showing you that he's putting these balls into the box. He's got a mandate from Ollie. I think the only problem with Shaw is that he doesn't have a Zlatan or a Lewandowski or a Drogba sort of striker.
So you mean a good striker?
Cavani.
Yeah. I mean, Edison Cavani is a great striker, but he's not as physically imposing as those ones that I've mentioned. Even Lukaku would be more stronger in the air.
You're just going down the hole of all the players
Yeah.
that Wahid wanted out of Manchester United.
I mean, no one wanted Ibra out of United. We wanted Ibra in United probably 10 years before, and then to finish there. But I would definitely bank on Luke Shaw. He's got about 4% ownership, and he's under 5 mil, which is not bad.
On the other side of the field, there's Aaron Wan-Bissaka. Yes, he had, I think somebody captained him and he got 51 points yesterday. Which
Triple captained it.
It might have been his relative. No one is captaining Aaron Wan-Bissaka other than people who are related to him.
Is there a case for the other side, or is it just for Manchester United down the left?
I'd be wary of Wan-Bissaka. He's not a fullback who's going to get you attacking points all the time. He did this week, but it's not going to be an all the time thing. Having said that, apparently Ole, when he first watched United, when he was first taking over, he looked at the fullbacks and he said, "These aren't Man United fullbacks. A Man United side plays with high fullbacks, attacking fullbacks." And his idea was always to move to a Man United that he played in, a Man United where the fullbacks were playing high, with fullbacks pressing and harassing the opposition, with whipping crosses into the box. And as much as I've criticized Wan-Bissaka, you can see that Ole and his technical staff are working on that aspect of the game. It's not, for example, it hasn't been a case where they've been like, okay, this kid defends well, let him defend. They have really tried to make him the attacking fullback that they envisage, and he could obviously play because he started off as a striker/winger. So he does have that in him. So yeah, there might be a long-term sort of thought process behind including Wan-Bissaka, but I think for the minute, Luke Shaw is the one. United play a lot more through the left. A lot of the attacking play goes through the left rather than the right. And that's simply because we are well stocked on the left in terms of our attacking play. We've got Rashford, we've got Martial. All of them are more comfortable on the left. And they're also a lot more comfortable coming inside from the left, which allows Luke Shaw to bomb forward and overlap whoever the winger is on the left side. Whereas on the right-hand side, we probably lack a bit of quality there, and we sort of chop and change replay there. So yeah, the most of the attack goes through the left. So I'd venture to say that Luke Shaw is a way better pick than Wan-Bissaka.
And I know that you had Luke Shaw. Did you have another differential that we could have a stab at?
Yeah, so I've got two. One is a player who I have a passionate, burning, deep-seated hatred for. And that's
Luke Shaw. You've already said Luke Shaw.
And that's
another one.
And that's Paul Pogba. I think he's only owned by less than 2% of players on the game. He's been very much in form. I do think this is his last season with United, thank God. But he has been in form and he has been playing quite well. So when he plays, he is a player who might chip in with a goal or an assist every now and then. So I think that he might be one to look at, especially as Bruno starts to tire through the season. Bruno is looking a little bit sluggish compared to how he looked maybe 3-4 months ago, and Pogba might be the one to step into that role and sort of grab games by the scruff of the neck. The problem with Paul Pogba is that he's often fluttered like he's flattered to deceive, in terms of you think this is the moment for Paul Pogba, and then he goes through a game. He does nothing. He's very ineffective through games. So he's the one, and then the other one is Lionel Jesse, who's also owned by like less than 2% of players.
Just takes ABs.
Do you not read the WhatsApp group?
No, really not. You take Luke Shaw, he takes Jesse. Easy.
Let's talk Jesse Lingard. Let's all talk Jesse Lingard. He's moved into the West Ham team. I thought he wasn't going to start. He started his first game, which is wild because I thought Fornals was had that spot. That he makes that West Ham team look a lot stronger with Bowen on the one side and him on the other side with Benrahma playing as that number 10. Is this going to continue? Will David Moyes throw love to his person, or is this just a one-game thing?
No one knows.
One game thing.
No one knows.
But
he's averaging 15 points per game in fantasy football. So that's what I'm going to say. The greatest fantasy player to have ever existed. He can retire.
Destroying
now.
his Excel spreadsheet right now. Just destroying it.
There's also Jared Bowen there, who's a little player who could be a differential. Just thinking out loud as we're chatting about West Ham. I know I did not give West Ham much of a chance this season.
Relegation.
No, you didn't.
You called them
at
to
all.
be relegated.
They're fighting for the Europa League spot there under David Moyes.
They're fighting for the top four, not even Europa. They're so good.
Moisinho.
Hey, he's done an incredible job. Cyrus, what is your differential?
Okay, so I clearly didn't read the memo right. So having figured out what a differential actually means, I figured that we had to find a player in every position. So being the kind of guy I am, I came up with 2, and in some cases 3 players per position. So do you want me to try and pick one, or should I just go through the ones that I
Give us your best one.
Okay, well, interestingly, the best one is a player who's only picked by 1% of people in the game, and that's Eberechi Eze from Crystal Palace.
Ah, yes.
Do you also not read the WhatsApp group, Cyrus?
There's a WhatsApp group.
Okay,
But
Cyrus,
that was the
let's
best one.
talk Eze.
I do have another one.
Okay.
Who's also
Okay, let's just edit that part out. You go say the other one. I'll say Eze.
which
Okay,
is
cool.
Harrison from Leeds. He's only picked by 2.2% of people. He's actually at a 5.4 cost, and he's got 86 points already this season. And, you know, when you look at Leeds, they flattered to deceive so much. Yet there's a reason why people have been so high on them. And it isn't just because Marcelo Bielsa could be the next Adonis. It's because they have a team that plays some pretty good football. So when you look at the players there, you think, okay, maybe these guys will do, bits and pieces here and there. And I think especially when we change formation, because I think most of us were playing something that had 2 or 3 strikers for a large portion of the season, and then realized, hang on, more midfielders make sense. Sometimes you can't squeeze all of the big hitters, or rather the ones that just cost a lot but do nothing, Salah, into our teams. And so, somebody like Eze is a great option.
Yes, he is, and he scored. He's got an assist in the last game, and over the weekend he scored a goal as well. So he's a great guy. We'll talk about Eze in that, Dean. But Wahid, what did you think when Cyrus said Leeds plays good football? Do you believe in that philosophy?
I mentioned this before. Like, I don't understand the Leeds loving. I really don't. They're a team that play good football but get thrashed every week, and it pisses me off. The rhetoric around Leeds. It's like super annoying. We thrashed them 6-2, and everything was about how well they played.
Well, having said that, though, Wahid. Yeah, they did. And that's the point, is that nobody's saying they're the winningest team in the league. They're saying they play good football. I think the issue really isn't just Leeds, it's a Bielsa love-in. And I think that's one of the key things, because he's like Mauricio Sarri. Mauricio Sarri was...
Who came up with what entails good football, please?
Well, everybody who didn't like Mourinho's Chelsea. How's that? Because everybody had something to say when Mourinho was the coach of Chelsea in 2004 and 2005 season. They played terrible football, and yet they won all the games. So suddenly, style points was a thing. Exactly. Style points was a thing. Now, people are saying, no, look, well, style doesn't count. It does count. And this is the kind of thing. People talk about wanting to watch good football. Brighton play good football. They are horrible. Yet they beat Liverpool. But, that aside, you can see what attractive football looks like, and Leeds do that.
Take it from me, from a person who spent, I think, 15 years of his Arsenal career listening to football as art. Yeah, it can be beautiful, but it can also be just heartbreaking.
Absolutely pointless.
It was beautiful. Some moments are just, but no trophies. Yeah, no league titles in God knows when. My one was Bukayo Saka. I kind of felt that a lot of people are looking at ESR instead of Saka, even though he's 5.4. And also the Arsenal stock has dropped in the market because of the way we started the season. But for the past 7 games, they've been playing incredible football. Against Wolves, Saka had them. Like, he could have had a hat trick in like 10 minutes.
Is there bonus points for hitting the post, though?
No bonus points at all.
You think if there were, there's some teams where they'd be capitalizing big time.
Yeah, but from that perspective, as a differential, Saka comes in to an Arsenal that's a lot more creative up front. Odegaard's come in. I wouldn't say bring him in now. ESR is going to be the guy who's going to be helping him out. There's that Hale and similar 1-2 situation happening with the two of them that can create a lot. And with Saka on the right at Arsenal, I think he's a great guy. I'm happy he's no longer playing left back. But I think he's the one differential that you can bring in. Also, he's obviously within goals and assists over the past period. The other person obviously is Lacazette, but I think from a striking perspective, just watch what happens this weekend against Aston Villa as to how that works out with Aubameyang on the left. I think it worked well having Pepe or someone else on the left while Aubameyang had personal reasons. But Lacaz's been scoring goals, so if you're looking for a striker scoring goals, he's the guy. Dean, let's talk Eze. He's been in the goals. He's been around. Why Eze, not necessarily the others? I think the others would be obviously Zaha and possibly one of the strikers.
So I mentioned Zaha earlier, and I mean, Zaha is definitely an option in that Crystal Palace side. But if you're looking for someone that minimal people own, and someone, look, I said earlier also, if Crystal Palace scored 9 times out of 10, it's Zaha. But I think that might be fading away, and I think Eze is the new guy. And the big point of why you'd have to look at Crystal Palace at the moment is their run of fixtures. I mean, they've got Leeds up next, but then they got Burnley, the mighty Brighton. So don't back them there. And then Fulham. So they've got relatively easy fixtures. And Eze is also on free kicks. So there's that, you get that sort of opportunity there. And for him to only be selected by 1% is criminal. And at 5.8, he's definitely playing in that Suchek kind of Gundogan place where if other people have so many of those players, you're looking for someone to cane, he could be a good option. So 100% have to look at him. But if you kind of want to get a bank out, probably go Zaha because he'll probably return a little bit more. But in terms of differentials, no, it wouldn't look past him.
Okay. AB, is there another differential outside of Jay Lings and Luke Shaw, who seemingly is the Manchester United pairing there at the bottom?
No, not really. When people steal your differentials that you've worked the whole day on, it's awkward. But yeah, I mean, look, we talked about him last week. We talked about, is Pep going to screw us, in the game week that happened. But Gabriel Jesus started, scored. Do we go to him now? Can we rely on Pep? Okay, cool. He's going to start again this weekend. He's going to score again this weekend.
Yeah.
Go to the statue of Christ the Redeemer before trying to put Gabriel Jesus into your team, because Pep will just play with a false 7. He'll just change everything just because he hates FPL and he doesn't like human beings. And so, it's just how it is.
Yeah, I wouldn't put him in.
Oh.
Okay. Sorry there, AB.
Really, really. Gabriel Jesus coming.
Yeah, it's obvious.
Obviously.
Is there a case for any Burnley players in the side as a differential based on the fact that Burnley have seemingly found a way to win games? Chris Wood, Barnes, anybody interested in bringing in?
I think any striker goes at the moment.
Well, for me, I had Che Adams, not at Burnley, but at Southampton as somebody else who's also done quite well. And I mean, he's only been selected by, I think it was 4.7% of people playing the game. He costs 5.9.
And he was not offside.
Well,
he was not offside.
I mean, going back into those things, you realize
he just wasn't offside.
Where's the umpire's call? Where's the referee's call? Anyway, there's one of those things that I think needs to happen in
at Burnley who does well in games. He's not very consistent, but there's games when he'll just, like, for example, Arsenal, when he turns it on and he grabs some FPL points. If you're going to look at a midfielder from Burnley, he might be the one.
Yeah, but I wouldn't look at anything in Burnley, not even their kit. And that's the thing for me about just some of these teams. Like, I feel as if Sean Dyche plays like the weirdest money ball that you've ever seen. He figures he could actually stay up in the Premier League by drawing most of the games and then winning 2 or 3 of them. And that seems to be Burnley's MO. Let's try and chuck the ball up there and see if the biggest guys can lump the ball across the line. And it's crazy that it hasn't actually failed at some point. But there it is. I don't know if you'd look at Burnley as a place where you'd get nice points accumulators.
I've got one last differential, Pedro Neto. He's owned by like 7% of people. It's not huge, but he is the midfielder who's been doing best for Wolves, better than sort of Traore, Podence, or any of those other midfielders. He's sort of the creative outlet at the moment, and he might be the one to look at from a Wolves perspective. Wolves aren't doing as well as they have in last season or so, but they are a good side, and they're coached by a very good manager. And so if you're going to look to Wolves, I think that Pedro Neto might be the way to go.
100%.
Okay. From a defensive perspective, you guys all spoke attackers. Are there any defenders, any goalkeepers that are differentials right now? Sai, you go.
I told you, I listed everything. I can go from the back.
Sai, this is your time to shine.
That's it. Basically, when I realized I did the wrong homework. But the thing for me was when I looked at goalkeepers, I looked at teams that are actually sort of somewhere in the middle where you know what you want is a goalkeeper that doesn't concede and then also like makes a lot of saves. So Pope is generally, that's why he's quite high up there. But Crystal Palace's Guaita is not a bad selection as a goalkeeper. He's selected by 3.3% of people playing the game. He costs 4.8 mil, and he's already accumulated 75 points. So I definitely look at him. And then from a defender perspective, I was looking at Matt Target. He's owned by 8.2% of people playing the game, but at 4.8, as a cost of 4.8, and he's already accumulated 85 points. Why not? Even Konsa is also a good pick. Have I run to everybody else's selections here?
So just wait. On the other side of that, because I've seen 8% for a defender is actually very high in FPL. On the other side, Matty Cash. Is Matty Cash doing good enough at Aston Villa to kind of help you guys? Because obviously everyone's lining their defense with either James Justin, Matt Target, and possibly either one of a Man City, or if you're still going cheap, you've got Dallas there. But you're obviously looking for alternatives. You've got Matty Cash. You've probably got Sufal, but he's quite expensive. Nathan, what's he, Ryan Bertrand at Southampton, even though Southampton are on a good patch. Are there any other guys that you can try figure out and finagle your way out of this as a differential?
Is this a general to everyone?
Yes, to everyone.
I think everyone's defense is pretty set at the moment. That's the thing. I think no one's really looking for points there.
I actually have someone who I transferred in. I'll just pull up his stats. So I don't know why I transferred him in. Maybe because I was broke. I don't know. Sometimes I do things because I'm broke. He's owned by 7 and a bit, and it's Max Kilman from Wolves. Yeah, he costs 4 mil. That's
is he
why.
playing though?
He did. He played a left back against Arsenal.
Yeah. So I think it was just a cheap option. I always have one player,
super cheap.
Who's super cheap. And Tyreek Mitchell's no longer playing because we don't deserve good things.
But the thing about the differential for defenders is that I think a lot of people tend to have to put people into their squads, and so they'll pick a lot of guys, like let's say the Villa players, just to fill out the roster as opposed to needing to play them. And I think that's why you'll find somebody like Target is quite up there because he's fairly low cost. He's actually cost less than Cash, so he's 4.8 and Cash is 5. And Cash is not king, in this case, Target is. So,
so good.
Man, that was awesome.
But the thing here is that you'll find those kinds of players. Whereas if you look at Kufal, who I've got in my team at the moment, I think his cost is like 4.6, and yet he's owned by 6.9%. So, you're starting to see people look at the cheaper option and say, well, he is playing and he'll get us points. So I'd also look at Kufal as being a relatively good option because West Ham haven't been getting hammered.
Cyrus, you're here with the jokes. Okay, guys, let's close the show out with our captaincy picks. I'm going to start with you, Dean, at the top. This week we have Manchester United, Everton, which is a humdinger. But Arsenal play Villa, Burnley, Brighton, Newcastle, Southampton, Fulham, West Ham, United, Everton, Spurs, West Brom, big game there. Wolves, Leicester, Liverpool, Man City, Sheffield, Chelsea, and Leeds Crystal Palace. Who you thinking of captaining?
If I had a Spurs player, I'd go one of them, but don't have them in my team anymore. So it worked. The Fulham one worked for me with Maddison, so I'm going Antonio against Fulham captain. I think Fulham will concede, and I think Antonio will score probably. So or score or assist. So I'd probably go him. If you want to go a bit of a weird one, maybe Souček or Kufal in that situation. But yeah, a West Ham player for sure this weekend.
Yeah, I've tripled up on West Ham, so I'm going to probably consider that in that London derby. Wahid, what are you thinking from a captaincy perspective?
Exactly the same. I was trying to decide between Antonio or Souček because they're playing Fulham and Fulham are rubbish. But in the end, I've gone with something different to what Dean said. Actually, it's exactly what Dean said. And I've gone for Sonaldo because I think there might be a bit of a reaction against West Brom. I think.
Are you assuming they're losing to Chelsea tonight?
Yeah, thanks for that.
No,
We're going to react after we lose before we've lost.
I'm counting chickens, but in a different way to the way.
Lord.
They've hatched and he's lined them up.
What are your captaincy options this week? I see Chelsea's got a nice one with Sheffield. Is there a possibility for...
I'm steering clear of anybody at Chelsea. I don't know who's going to play. And I think that's the key thing for me right now, is that, it could be anyone. So, like, when you look at all of the options, there's enough striking options that Tuchel could change it and play anybody. You look at the wing backs, you could look at central defenders. There's just so many variables. I mean, Kante hasn't played because he's been injured. And so he might play in the game against Spurs. And then that means that either Jorginho or Kovacic don't play. And Mason Mount seems to be one of the few consistents, but he might get changed out because of Kai Havertz. So pick Chelsea players at your peril. But for me personally, if I was going to go for... so there's two schools of thought. The first one for me is pick somebody who will generally get you points, even if the game is a tough one. And I think United-Everton is not a bad one, and Bruno should get you some points there. But if you're actually looking for somebody sort of little out of left field and you're looking at differentials, Saka could be a good one to pick at Arsenal play Villa, because Villa are relatively open and generally will allow teams to attack them. Arsenal are playing good attacking football, and Saka is one of the few guys who hasn't had a red card. So, I would definitely pick him as an outside bet.
Okay. AB, what's your captaincy pick? Why is it not Salah? That's my question.
Well, I just remember last time I did predict Calvert-Lewin to come right, and he did score. So I'm just saying, if you went and bought Calvert-Lewin and you captained him, well done. So it's between Son and Bruno for me. I don't know. I think the City-Liverpool game will just be a bit too tight, and City could just run rampant if it's not too tight. But I think I'm going to go with Bruno. Everton haven't looked that good in their last few games, so I think Ollie's going to try and attack them, and yeah, who better than Bruno to lead that charge? So yeah, that's me.
So nobody out of Man City, nobody out of Liverpool, even though we know Man City is going to come out with a strong 11.
I think City, if you're going to pick a City player, then this is the time to do it, because this Liverpool team, they've definitely got some serious failings because of injury and what have you. And, but who do you pick?
If Aguero was fit,
in my team.
Yeah, if Aguero was fit, we'd all captain Aguero, I think. But,
Yeah.
No, still captaining Antonio.
Yeah.
Okay.
Rory Delap's kid could start. We don't know.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you
Is this
very
kid's
much,
name
guys.
Long Ball?
No.
Throw in.
It's not.
Long throw.
Guys, I've had nightmares because of Rory Delap. Let's not go back there. I've gone to therapy.
Remember when Wenger said we should do kicks instead of throws?
Kickins.
Yeah, option, guys. It was
Classic
unbelievable.
Arsenal. Classic.
There was the back throws and the Charlie Adam corners all in that season.
Wow.
It was a nightmare. Don't take me back there. I'm reliving moments of a different nightmare. Right now. Yeah, but okay, thank you very much, guys, for joining us. Have a great FPL weekend to you and all those who are watching. I hope that you get as many points as you can, and I hope that somehow Spurs comes good for Dean somewhere along the line. But obviously, we're all holding those transfers for when Kane comes back. But for myself, Sai, Dean, Wahid, and AB, thank you very much. Have a great weekend. And till next week, le sale, cacajis.